The key to it is our signature that is sustaining that constitution. If we apply that key, the document is gone. We didn't make it. If we refuse, those who impose it will have us in that cage until they slaughter the last of us. So we can begin to break it down going forward. And if you are wondering why I said, why I interpreted the preamble the way I interpreted it, again, I take you down to section 14.2a that acknowledges in that constitution that sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. I'm quoting now, section 14.2a, for those who will be asking National Assembly or whoever somewhere else that has to make constitution, the power to make constitution is exclusive to you as the owner of sovereignty over and above government by the admission of that constitution itself in section 14.2a. And therefore, when it goes to the preamble to say we, in exercise of that sovereignty, have submitted, it was telling a lie. Because the decree number 24 that brought that constitution to life also told the story of how exactly it came about the constitution. There was no meeting of Yoruba and the Ijaw. Neither was there any drafting of any constitution from that process. It was the Supreme Military Council of the time of Absalom Abaka that brought back what they did before, same brigade in 1979, and called it 1999 constitution after they had added the states and council areas they created in between the last 79 and the 99. So we must have a clear, these things we are trying to deal with took over 250 years to build up against us. That's why Black Africa is the way it is. That's why Nigeria particularly is the way it is. Nothing is going to resolve it. Anything else that goes, if you check it against what we're telling you now, you discover you are being deceived from the blood of others. Let's begin to break it down.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. On the 26th of December 1913, there was a very telling week that talked about the Treaty of Amalgamation. Thank you very much. So, again, on the 26th of December 1913, there was a Treaty of Amalgamation. There was a Treaty of Amalgamation that happened, and it was the news was leaked by an Italian paper, and it talked about the union of the Southern Lady of Means with the Northern husband. Can you from all the research and all the things that you've uncovered? Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Okay, before you go, sir, a second, please.
Yes.
I quickly want to refresh so that please kindly follow the club so you can see the hand raising. We also welcome Deji Adeyanju, one of the noble activists we know in the room. Please kindly come off if possible. Njenje Media is also live on YouTube channel. If you like, and please, Njenje Media and Comrade Deji Adeyanju. Okay, thank you, Deji. You're welcome. Njenje Media, you can also come up. Please kindly follow the Rubicon Club as we try to come together to form a movement to correct that needs to be done. Thank you.
Yes, I go on. The amalgamation that was announced in 1914 did not happen overnight. and take over the territories that had come under those protection and trade treaties. They had to pay Royal Niger Company off to take formal possession and control, in fact, ownership. Royal Niger Company was paid £865,000 in 1900 for the crown to become the official owner of the territories that have come under those treaties. From that point, they were managing what they were doing with the northern side, different from what they were doing with the southern side. Two different compartments, like two different countries. It was in 1906, in fact, it wasn't even two, as at 1900. They were still dealing as the colony of Lagos was entirely on its own, not connected with anything else. There was Oil Rivers Protectorate that was on its own. That's the current Niger Delta and parts of Igbo land. And they called everything in between one name or the other. It was in 1906 that they merged all the treaties they had in the southern part to form the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. The colony of Lagos still standing, but there was now one political union owned by the British called the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. They did the same thing in the north. They already did the same thing to combine everything in the north to be one block. They began to merge their systems. was contracted by those who foisted it on us as a marriage in which the resources of the South that was challenging them. You remember environment that was deposed. You remember the one of King Jaja of Opopo and all of the other things in the South. Lagos was tug of war for over 30 years. Again, remember, the grandfather of Odumegwu Ojukwu, that is the father of Sir Louis, that wealthiest black man of his time, was hung in Nkwonewi. He was the paramount ruler of that Nnewi entire area. He had guns. So they were pushing the eastern Nigeria, the southern Nigeria resisted this British to no end. So it was almost by conquest that everything happened. The father of Sir Louis, that's Ojukwu's grandfather, was hung in Nkwonewi on the orders of a British major. As an example to all the other rulers, the kings that were organizing all kinds of pushback against British entry into their space, to tell you that the South resisted them. So the North that was already an oligarchy, the North that was already a feudal system, the North that was also on a conquest mission, like two robbery gangs that had to cooperate. That was what the British and the Caliphate were. The Caliphate was coming from the Sokoto flank, the British came from the Atlantic waterfront, and they met halfway in the Benue Ilori axis. Uthman Danfodio was actually killed in Tivland. That's part of the offense of thief people today. In the march to the Atlantic waterfront. I'm sure you saw some of the recent declassified documents in which northern politicians were talking about how to march onto the Atlantic coast. That is what is going on, gentlemen. Anybody who does not understand it, these people are continuing their conquest mission with the British that have moved away, handing further and further over to them all kinds of things. But when you see them meet in Chatham House, it is because the senior partner is now whispering to the junior partner. When you see the Archbishop of Canterbury, a Christian, rolling out the red carpet to receive Muhammad Buhari in the midst of the blood flowing all over him by his direct involvement, it is that joint venture. Go and find out where Archbishop of Canterbury was coming from. Find out what he had to do with the oil industry in Nigeria. Find out whether Buhari was not oil minister at the time he was in his own oil industry work. In the background. These are the things we are dealing with. If we understand the whole thing to mean the whole thing now has resulted in the constitution we have on the table progressively from that point in 1913. That principle of annexing us, the troublesome owners of this asset, to a north, the caliphate, that was obedient and loyal, but had to be empowered to hold us down. So instead of British slapping you, it's Fulani shooting you. That is what this whole Nigeria is all about. All attempts by Awolowo and Azikiwe and all of those who went to Lancaster House to adjust from the original intention was overtaken by 1966 collapse of the Constitution. And then this local agent took over 100% control and began to document that control and codify it and carried it forward to when it became constitutional in 1979 and further carried it forward in 1999 using one of our own, Olusegun Obasanjo, very mightily. It is that cumulative acquisition of our sovereignty over these 100 and something years that we have to deal with now. Anything else we are doing, every day we fail, every day we postpone, every day we prevaricate. They are on their conquest mission because they realize that we have woken up suddenly. They realize that we have organized ourselves against their worst calculation. They didn't imagine that a day will come when the whole of the South and the whole of the Middle Belt will be standing on one side. They thought they had divided us to the point of no return. I'm sure most of you are reading the suit the so-called Northern Elders went to file in Abuja, that the East should be allowed to go, the Southeast, the Igbo. They were still counting on their mischief of 1967, in which they balkanized the Eastern region into three, isolating the Igbo, the hinterland Igbo. Let me use the word hinterland Igbo. The South, the 5 southeastern states of today was first they were first the East Central state that emerged from the fracturing of Eastern region before the creation of Biafra in 1957. I want all of those who are talking about Biafra today, I want all of them to listen very carefully to this part, because that is why what the problem is. Asking them to please leave that word Biafra out of this campaign, this very deep fight to recover our land and our sovereignty. Because the moment you put the word Biafra on it, that is guarantee for failure. That is guarantee that we'll be killed again. That is guarantee that none of us will leave that cage. How did it happen? Thank you. Listen carefully. When it became clear from the things that were going on that Eastern region, the coup happened and they started killing Easterners all over the country. Listen carefully, people ran home. And it came to where when the matter was not, it became clear from meetings that were going on to stop the killing. It wasn't stopping. The mates of Ojukwu was governor in the east because the coup had taken out the civilian governments, and so they appointed military governors for the 4 regions. Ojukwu was the governor in the east when these killings began to happen in July of 1966. People began to run home. But as they were running, it was clear that these people would chase them to that place they were running to. And anxiety began to mount. And the colleagues of Ojukwu in the army, his mates, and I'm telling you, there's nothing I say here that I did not hear from the people involved. Ojukwu told me his own part of the story. Most of the things he didn't write down, because he said if he were to write down some of the things, that nobody can hold Nigeria together for 1 month. Colonel Achuzie, who was his mate, told me that they were the ones who compelled him. Many of us have been told that Ojukwu warmonger, warlord. No, Ojukwu believed in Nigeria too much. But one said so when he died. When Ojukwu died in 2011, Gowon, in his tribute, said that this man believed in Nigeria more than all of us. Ojukwu rejected the proposition that Eastern region should cut out from the Union. But when the killings will not abate, his mates now gave him marching orders, because they told him they were going to remove him, take charge, and draw that line. Achuzie told me that himself. He was part of the team that gave that deadline to Ojukwu as sitting governor in Eastern region of the time. Now, they went around consulting, and eventually they brought the leaders of thought to Enugu to decide on how to proceed. They called it Eastern Consultative Assembly. That Eastern Consultative Assembly that included people from the river, from the Eastern minorities, decided that they were going to declare Eastern Region Republic of Biafra. that they were going to declare independence. And it was an Ijoma from that eastern region, Chief Franco Pigo, that suggested the name Biafra, because that was the description of the waterfront, that whole water where you have Ijo and all the other people in between now was called the Bight of Biafra on the old maps. So that the people of the riverine area can also have a sense. The capital was in Enugu, so that they can also have a sense of it, so that the whole world can know where this problem is taking place. That name was suggested as the name by which Eastern region can then go to independence. It was after that decision had been taken that the British that refused to create the states that the Eastern minorities wanted in the Willings Commission of 1957. The same British now went back to what those, I'm sure many of us may have heard about the COR, that's Cross River, Ogoja rivers, were the states that the Eastern minorities wanted created before independence because of this Igbo domination, as they called it at the time. And having not created it at that time, the British played it as a card 3 days before the declaration of Biafra on the 30th of May. 3 days, 20. Because that is where the were cut out of the Eastern region, and the balance was called East Central State. It is that East Central State that is landlocked. It is that East Central State that Buhari was describing as dot in circle. It is that Eastern State that has become 5 states right now. East Central State of 1967 have become the 5 Southeastern states, but no square inch have been added to it, and it is still blocked by rivers that have been broken into rivers and Bayelsa, and Southeastern states that block the international border of Cameroon had now become Cross River and Akwa Ibom. So you have Cross River, Akwa Ibom blocking Cameroonian border, rivers, Bayelsa blocking Atlantic waterfront, so that the East Central State, that is the southeast of today, is now that hinterland Igbo state created on the 27th of May. So by the 30th of May, when that declaration of Republic of Biafra happened in Enugu, the people of rivers, that is these rivers and Bayelsa, and the people of Southeast, today's Akwa Ibom and Cross River, their case and contention is that they were not part of the Eastern region that became Republic of Biafra on the 30th of May. Factually, very correct, because 27th of May preceded 30th of May. And so, the war itself, when it became war, was waged as a liberation war. I'm sure most of us who have been to Port Harcourt will remember there's a stadium called Liberation Stadium in Port Harcourt. That's how the name came. The war that Nigeria came to levy against Eastern region was fought as a liberation war. Federal government led by the Fulani were coming to save. That was the narrative that the British sold to the whole world, that the Igbo were invading their neighbors, that the Igbo state were invading their non-Igbo neighbors. And the whole world believed it and worked with them. Of course, they had shared oil and closed their eyes to the truth. And therefore, from that time to now, if you want to get out of this bondage and it has to include them. You have to go and sit down with them, discuss with them to say, can we do it together now? The enemy is slaughtering you, slaughtering us. This was what Lower Niger Congress did for 6 years. We went from the palace of the Oba of Benin that went with them to Aburi when the problem was at its peak. And he agreed with us after consulting with his own people for over 6 months. He gave us 2 people. I'm sure some of us might have heard about the Benin traditional prime minister, Isekure. He's still alive. Then the younger brother of the Oba of the time, Edu, is still alive. He used to be a diplomat or so. He gave us those 2 people to go with us to the Olu in Warri, the late Olu. The Olu repeated the same thing, calling in his own people for the representation, for the proposition we placed before them for what we should do, that we must take down the constitution that has emerged from this brigandage, the Nigeria that is built on the blood of the innocent. The Olu also did his own, agreed with us, gave us more people to go with us to the Ijaw territories. And we continued until we got to the Obong's place in Calabar. 6 whole years, between 2003 and 2009. It was in 2009 that we looked back to say, yes, all these people have consulted and agreed among themselves that we can push together to get rid of this enemy once and for all. As a territory of 70 million people, with open Atlantic waterfront to one side and the international border of Cameroon to the other side, because we are now all back together, with everybody standing on his father's soil. Ogoni will stand in their small Ogoni. Ijaw will stand in their Ijaw land. Ishekiri will stand in their Ishekiri land. Meanwhile, the Midwestern region of the time, to tell you the part of the complication, when you go to the word Biafra, the Midwestern region ended on River Niger. So Asaba, many young people here will not know, Asaba was never part of Eastern region. Asaba was not in that Biafra. All the way from Asaba to Abo, to the place they call Ibakiri, which is now Ibanke, where Samuel Obemudia comes from. I'm sure many of you do not know that the fellow is Igbo, because his Igbo land continues from Asaba into that part of Edo. There are no 2 states. There are no 2 states from the southeast you can bring together today to match the size of Igbo land in Delta State. That is how large the Igbo population is. And the Midwestern region of the time, you remember that the first premier of Midwestern region was that Midwestern region that came out of Western region was Sir Dennis Osadebe. Igbo. You can see that the governor in Asaba today is Ifeanyi Okowa. And so, Nzogwo, that was the one that staged the coup, unsuccessful coup, that plunged everybody into trouble, is from that delta. He's not from your southeast of today. Achuzie that fought in that Biafran war on all the fronts is from that delta, Igbo of delta, across the Niger, never from Eastern region, never from Biafra. But he was a Biafran senior officer all through. Rafu Wechwe, the one that became Ohaneze President General from Owashuku. Rafu Wechwe was the ambassador of Nigeria to France. At the time trouble broke out and Nigeria split, Rafu Wechwe seized the embassy building in Paris, and he became the first outpost of the new Republic of Biafra. How will you be discussing Biafra that will not include Rafu Wechwe's community? Asaba massacre that all of you have been reading about. The people of Asaba were massacred because it was the first Igbo town that the federal troops met on their way to the east from Ore, where the Biafran soldiers had gotten to before something went wrong and they had to go back. On the way of being pushed back into the east across the Niger, Asaba was the first main town, and Murtala Mohammed and his troops rounded up all the men in that town and slaughtered them. Their offense was because they were Igbo and considered part of that Biafra. Now, if you sit in one corner of Atlanta, or one corner of London, or one corner of Ukraine, to say you are going to do Biafra restoration without talking to any of all these people, particularly the non-Igbo, the Ijo, the Anang, the Efik, Ogoni, you are now validating that false claim of Nigeria because it was false. Philip Effiong from Akwa Ibom area, Anang, was Ojukwu second in command from the first day of the war to the last day. And he wasn't only at the time, he was the one that had to bear the risk of going to surrender on behalf of Biafra when the war was lost. Philip Effiong, that was not the first time he headed Biafra. There was a time Ojukwu took a leave in course of that war. The time they had to go to develop a Hera declaration. And Philip Effiong was head until he resumed. So it was a lie from the beginning that the Eastern minorities rejected the Igbo. No, it was the British that was manipulating everybody. The Briggs family was divided, split down the line in the middle to the point of fatality. Those who stood with Biafra and those who stood against Biafra.
Thank you very much.
So,
can we hold it there for a second?
The reason I went into this is that anybody who is talking about our self-determination today, anybody who wants freedom and liberation for Eastern Nigeria today, who does not go to talk to the owners of the 2/3 of the territory that was the Biafra of 1967, is programming all of us for failure and death the second time, because we'll be surrounded 360 degrees again. It becomes an Igbo project. And Nigeria will kill as many people as they wish to kill without consequence. The answer to that is this alliance. That constitution is the guarantee, is the protection. That challenge on the constitution is the protection all of us have, even those in Ibadan who want Yoruba nation. It is that constitution you can say you did not make that will make it impossible for Nigeria to come to accuse you of treason or shoot you aside. We have tested the potency of that claim in the 2007 suit we filed against the constitution. That was what collapsed the treason trial of Asari Dokubo and Uwazurike under Obasanjo, whom Obasanjo had taken in for treason. That was why they couldn't try Henry Oka in Nigeria, and they had to go and cook up something in South Africa. I attended that trial in South Africa, and I told that judge in South Africa that if Henry Oka went to prison, Nigeria would go up in smoke undiscussed. The judge was ready to release him to me in 2013. The story I'm telling you today was told in South African courtroom against the backdrop of apartheid South Africa. We challenged South Africa with their apartheid history, and I had to ask them whether they beheaded Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela, Thabo, Governor Mbeki, and the rest of them. Did they behead them to end apartheid? That South Africa will be holding the ladder for Nigeria to continue apartheid. 53 TV cameras covered it live. That was the day Nigeria collapsed in the international arena. The only people that were not paying attention were Nigerians. But from that point, the big companies began to withdraw from Nigeria. Because we showed the world. I didn't know that those 53 cameras were beaming live. CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, all the stations in South Africa. When I came out from the courtroom, I could not leave from the front door because of the number of South Africans that were on the street. What you saw today as EFF, that Economic Freedom Party of Julius Malema, find out how they rallied themselves into to become political party. On that day, Because the South African stations, I'm talking to young people now, those people who went to do NSAS, those people who are saying that their life has been ruined. There have been similar situations in other climes. Young people listened and began to work with knowledge. All of the cities of South Africa, young people came out. From Durban to Cape Town to Johannesburg down to Pretoria. The government of South Africa had never seen such a thing since after the trial of Mandela in the Rivonia trials of 1962. Somebody from the High Commission of Nigeria had to come to the hotel. He asked me to get on the first plane leaving South Africa the next morning. By 7 o'clock, I was already in the plane. They said they didn't know what the government of South Africa would do. I'm telling us the kind of, this type of thing I'm saying now was what was said in courtroom. And young people of South Africa had the story of their country raw for the first time. Because we told the judge the parallels between the apartheid that they had to struggle to overcome and the and recover this land today, working with knowledge. Nobody is going to be able to shoot you if you do what we ask you to do. Nobody is going to be able to retain that union of death if you pull back your signature in the manner we prescribe.
Thank you very much, sir. Let us expand that conversation a little bit and take an economic subjugation argument.
But let me just lay a bit of background. We call it the apartheid revenue sharing formula, the one that, equality, population, and landmass account for how 80% of everybody's revenue is distributed. And this is enshrined in the fraudulent constitution that continues to perpetuate subjugation for the alliance territory. And I'd like to give you some numbers and talk about the revenue and the IGR. And more importantly, I'll close with your understanding of the revenue, especially for Lagos ports. But let's talk about IGR, and I'm going to isolate some states. Now, Yobe State generated 8 billion in IGR, and they got a federal allocation of 49 billion. Ondo State generated 24 billion in IGR, and they got a revenue of 47 billion. So, despite generating 3 times the federal revenue or the internet generated revenue of Yobe State, they got 2 billion less from federal allocation. And if you look at it, the same thing happens when you look at Jigawa and Anambra State last year. Jigawa State generated 9 billion, Anambra State generated 28 billion. And when it came to federal allocation, Jigawa State got 56 billion and Anambra State got 51 billion. So they got 5 billion less, despite generating almost 3 times more when it came to IGL. And if you look at the situation with the Lagos ports as well, Lagos continues to get federal allocation around, I think last year it was around 120 billion, 119 billion, after generating close to 420 billion. And the Lagos ports alone accounts for more than 730 billion. So the question thereof is, how has the economic subjugation continued with the help of the Constitution? Thank you.
Straightforward. 68 items, exclusive list. 36 states imposed by decrees. 774 local government areas imposed by decrees. And all of those decrees issued by people from that other part of the country, outside the alliance. How does it work? 36 states that will have to go to share revenue. They say land mass is the first order of business. There are some states, Niger State, for instance, is almost 3 times the size of the whole of the Southeast. There are at least 5 states that are more than twice the size of the 5 Southeast. I'm just now going specific so we can see how it all works. What are they bringing to the table in terms of revenue into that pot that has to be shared? 0. That is as in 0. If it doesn't come to 1%, what is below 1%? Is it not zero?
It's zero, sir.
Now, if Niger State is 3 times the size of the southeast that has Imo and Abia, oil producing, and landmass is an important, measure, you can imagine how much they get compared with these 5 states that bring so much. Lagos is even smaller in terms of landmass. But look at the ports of Lagos, accounting for almost 2 trillion. And then look at the VAT. At least 60% of all the VAT money being shared in Abuja, at least 60%. The company taxes, most of the big companies, all the banks minus their Unity Bank, that is headquartered in Abuja, all the other banks are headquartered in Lagos. The MTNs, the oil companies, in a federation, the taxes generated from those big corporations must be reckoned in favor of Lagos. Go and find out how it happens in New York, that is bigger than several countries put together, or California. And so we say we are copying their model of federation, but we confiscate all these monies, take to Abuja. So from the question of 36 states that will have to share revenue with this atrocious and abominable formula, population figures that are allotted arbitrarily become the second count. Then local government areas, because the federal government takes, the state government takes, the local government takes either 20% of the balance. Now how is that local government money shared amongst the 7 and 4 local government areas? Kano has 44 local government areas. Jigawa was carved out of Kano not long ago. It has 27 local government areas. Bayelsa, from where that money has to be generated, has 8 local government areas. You cannot add 1 local government area because the National Assembly is the one that will have to approve of it. Who is in the National Assembly? 36 states that have been created by elements from that part, from the other side, make you permanent political minority in that place of decision making, because it is 3 senators per state. Out of the 4 regions that collapsed in 1966, 1 region has become 19 states plus Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. So alone, they are a standing majority. Then when you come further down to local government areas, in which out of the 7 and 4 local government areas, they control a comfortable almost 60%. When you bring that money that has to be shared, none of them is bringing anything to the table. But they are taking lion's share as state, lion's share as, no matter who is, to tell you how bad it is in terms of revenue, no matter who is president, whether it's Obasanjo from Owu or Jonathan from Otoke, 72% of the money on the table is already in the pocket of those who bring no dime. When I say no dime, I mean no dime. As it was in the day of the Southern Lady of Mins in 1913, so it is in 2021. It doesn't matter who is president in Asorok. Because of these gerrymandering, these series of multiplicities, these rules that were written over the heads of the owners of the land by this invading army. That is the constitution. There is no recovery from it except that constitution goes down. Anybody who keeps that constitution for 1 more day is the one sucking our blood. And if he's from our part, if he's from that alliance territory, and he wants to be senator and governor, because he has to swear to defend and uphold this abomination. That is the condition for accessing office. That was why they put that condition there. Even if you win election, until you swear the oath of allegiance, you are not president or governor or senator. Why will anybody who knows that this constitution make us slave in our land, expose us to death and impoverishment, be willing to go and contest election under that apartheid constitution when the rest of the owners of the land have rejected it? All of you saw what happened in Port Harcourt today, the Nigerian Bar Association. Did anybody see what the Nigerian Bar Association was discussing in Port Harcourt today? It's going to come in form of communique tomorrow. The Nigerian Bar Association were having their national conference. They are still on their Port Harcourt as we speak. And they were talking about what will happen with constitution. And all they could suggest is that amendment. It was the audience, the panelists were talking nonsense, the leaders of the Nigerian Bar. They had called me when they were putting the conference together to say I had been listed to come to, that the committee wanted us to come and present, because we say the National Assembly does not have jurisdiction to make constitution for us. Their mandate does not extend to constitution making. And I'm speaking authoritatively because it is a question of jurisprudence. And I can say without equivocation that in this country today, there will not be many lawyers, senior advocate, professors, ask questions when they get confused. And like I said to us yesterday, those who were in the house yesterday, we are going to be calling names. Professor Ben Wabeze, professors of law coming from him. When we were to go to court in 2007 after Pronaco to say that we didn't make this constitution, and all and the other leaders of Pronaco, the conveners, wanted him to lead us to court. They approached him. He wanted to get details of what we were going to, the relief we were going to seek, because he was the one that drafted what became the constitution in 1979 himself, and Rotimi Williams, our brother. He was a university teacher in the University of Lagos, law lecturer. Obasanjo did the finishing, but they were the ones who crafted this chain that is holding us down. Let us go to court now to say we didn't make it. You are witness to how it all happened. He interrogated because I had drafted what we were going to file on behalf of the MNN Alliance, with 10 plaintiffs standing by, including the man that moved the motion for independence of Nigeria, including Ojukwu that fought a war on that debate, including Wole Soyinka that was locked down throughout the war. I'm sure many of us in this house may not have heard it, that Wole Soyinka did not see that war because he tried to plunge himself in between the two young men. He knew Gowon, he knew Ojukwu. He tried to go in between them to say, let this thing not degenerate. They grabbed him and locked him down. He didn't see the war. He almost died in detention. He was released towards the end when his health was deteriorating, and his associates across the globe raised an alarm. These were the kind of plaintiffs that lined up behind that challenge, whose names carry global weight. But Ben Wabeze will not accept to lead us. After interrogating what was already drafted to be filed, first he challenged me to come to prove to him the justiciability of the case. Can this matter be taken to court? Secondly, the jurisdiction, which court will take on this kind of matter? that were coming to say the constitution is a fraud and had to be done away with. I drafted something in 3 pages and sent to him to show him ground of jurisdiction and ground of justiciability. That is justiciability and jurisdiction in that order, because you have to establish justiciability before you now look for the court that has jurisdiction. It was after he read it that he invited, having been persuaded from what I put forward, that he invited me to the discussion. We were at it 3 hours plus in his office in Adekunle, Lagos. And I asked him, sir, if you were to be hired by the federal government of Nigeria to defeat this case, what would be your approach? He turned left and right on the swivel chair and he answered, this is novel. This is novel. I do not see how this can be defeated. Then let us go to court, sir, because the plaintiffs wanted a big masquerade standing in front. Who knew Tony Nnadi then? Our man declined. They left him searched all over the place. I won't mention the names of the other people. None of them wanted to come along. It was General Nnadi that now suggested in a meeting to which I was not invited, to the other people, the other conveners of the action, to say, let Tony Nnadi file this suit. Let all the other lawyers in Nigeria come whenever they wake up. And I was summoned to get ahead. The reason I went to that part is that the lawyers in Nigeria, the blood of those who are being killed now will be first on their head, because they are the ones who know. We went to every one of them. Anybody who wishes to call names should call names in this meeting and ask whether we told them, so that I can confirm to you we told them. From Abakova to Zekome to Falana, every one of them. The ones who are doing civil society, apart from the lawyers, civil society people, we thought they would be most interested in this kind of matter, for us to go and turn off this tap. Lo and behold, their livelihoods dependent on the problems remaining. If corruption is solved, how would those who are doing campaign to stop corruption earn a living from Ford Foundation and all the other donors? Oh, we thought the men of God would be more than eager. And we went to them with this same, the detailed explanation, writing, with proof of what had been done already. First, we sent out DHL. I sent out DHL packages by myself. That is, we compiled all of what we had done to tell them we have found a solution to the problem. All the big church leaders. 52 DHL packages. We sought audiences. Not many were willing to see us. Eventually, we saw some. If I were to tell you the answers that came from them, because I noted them, I was the one who had to lead the team each time to go to explain why we had to take down Constitution. More than 10 years ago is what I'm reporting to you now. That those men of God were approached to tell them that the torment on the people was flowing from that document. That the elections that brought politicians to come to swear to defend and uphold that document were the reason people were dying and getting impoverished. But they were more interested in their private jets and private universities. I challenged them then to say, where is it one Bishop Desmond Tutu to be found amongst you? We couldn't find any. So the church leadership failed. The Bar Association and the senior lawyers in the land failed. The what do they call them? Civil society people, civil society NGO leaders failed. Then we decided to leave those three constituencies out. If any one of them, and I want people to call names, if you call names, I will confirm to you. I'm sure some of them are listening to this program. Because they've gathered in Port Harcourt to again begin to suggest some kind of backyard route to get the National Assembly to amend Constitution. That is what the Nigerian Bar Association is discussing on the 27th of October in 2021 in Port Harcourt. We are going to tell them what we think about them tomorrow. They are going to be embarrassed in that conference that they are the ones responsible for the sustenance of the life of that constitution, tormenting the people. And the fact that they thought of inviting us to come to tell that conference what lawyers should be doing at this time, the lawyers in Nigeria, it was because Oliver Tambo was a lawyer and Nelson Mandela was a lawyer that the people of South Africa found an answer to apartheid. Where are the lawyers in Nigeria? They are all after election that will go back so that they can take the bribe between the judge, the tribunal, the candidate. That's all they're interested in. Corruption is flowing. They're interested in EFCC cases involving 20 billion, 50 billion, so that they can be paid in billions to go and defend people who stole people's money. That's all they're interested in. I challenge them to come to a debate to tell us what they're saying about this matter that has been in the open, that has been discussed in the inner recesses of power in Washington, that have been discussed in the inner recesses of power in New York. But the lawyers in Nigeria are hiding their heads under the sand, and people are being killed in this number. I once told them that the day law and order will break down on account of the fact that we didn't resolve this matter, they will be among the first to be fished out and hunted down. Then people will hear the details of what transpired between all of us. The lawyers in the land, the church leaders in the land, the NGOs, civil society people. Free and fair election. What free and fair election can you have that will become the answer to these atrocious iniquities called this constitution? They are talking about rule of law. What rule of law can you have with a constitution that make the owners of the land slaves in their land? What rule of law could you have had with apartheid constitution for the blacks? I want people present in this meeting to call names if they have to call names. Ask me whether we have told so person, so we can tell you who we have told. Among the people pretending to be defending you, among the people pretending to be concerned about you, across these three constituencies. Let's not even talk about the political actors. You will be shocked when you hear what some of the people you hail, senators and governors.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's give you a chance to catch your breath and grab some water, and then we'll open the floor at this stage. Thank you so much, sir. And if I could I don't think there's anybody that could follow up that submission, but if I could say anything, it would be to let you know that the next generation is going to finish the work you have started. We promise you are going to finish that work. I would like to open the floor now for some questions for Mr.
Is the floor should be open for those
before somebody else, before anybody else comes with a question. Were you the one that told me yesterday in the house that some of you have some differences with what we are proposing? Were you the one?
Yeah, I'm the one, sir. Yeah.
Can that person now tell me those things so that I can explain what is in the background that will be brought to the public in the coming days? What are those things we are proposing that you do not agree with?
Oh, no,
because
no.
This is a fight of life and death. We want everybody to be very clear. We're going to answer everybody's question.
Absolutely. Before we go further into that,
bring up Olabode to come and ask the question.
Why do you people always do this? This is a recorded session.
Please, before we go any further into the questions, there's going to be an organized back closed room where we some people will just highlight some particular I don't want to say questions, but some particular areas that we are not very familiar with, areas of concern that we are not very familiar with. Let's say areas that are not our strengths. For instance, a lot of us are strong in history, some are strong in economics, some are strong in politics and political party formation, some are strong in government administration, some are strong in intercultural people relation, in feminism and all that, in all different parts of the activism and information dissemination, trying to get people to a critical mass. So of course, there are some people that have some areas they are not very clear in what you want in terms of the way the information should be shared and the way they had previously shared it. So I think that is why a closed room will suffice for that particular reorganization. So I have a full house today, and there are a lot of people, more than 60 people trying to just ask you questions. So what we'll do is that we'll just take it in the order of PTR, and each question will be limited to just 1 minute, please. So just 1 minute, one question per speaker. Please, let's remember that this is a recorded session, so let us keep it extremely classy. Thank you very much, people. Thank you very much. So if you'd like to ask a question, please, we'll go by order of PTR. So you can please pump your mics, but I'll take the questions in the order of PTR. Thank you very much. So questions, if you'd like to ask a question, please pump.
Please follow the up. Hand raising will be turned on for those that
It's so nice to have you here. We really appreciate your presence and your enlightenment here for us tonight. So as you can tell from my name, I'm Igbo, and this is as regards to what you said about Biafra, about Biafra feeling if we continue to use Biafra. So I would like to say yes. So I would say that actually most of us, even on this clubhouse, most of us subscribe even across the 5 southeastern states, across that everywhere that you have Igbos, diaspora. Most of us subscribe to the Igbo nation. You understand what you're saying? Most of us subscribe to strictly an Igbo nation, where we can now have relationships with other ethnic nations, like the Anans and the Efik and all that. Now, sir, I want to ask you.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second, so that your question can land on solid ground. That Igbo nation, does it include the Ikwere and the rest of the Igbo in rivers? Does it include the Igbo of Asaba, Abo, all the way to Ibanke? 3/4 of rivers, more than half of Delta. Does that Igbo you are talking, the Igbo nation you are talking about, include the two?
Yes, sir. Everybody who is Igbo. Everybody who is Igbo. Yes.
Those proposing it, have you found any one person that went to Abo or Asaba or Ikwere land to sit down with them in town hall and get them to say, yes, we are now able to go with Igbo nation?
Sir,
don't know of any person among proposing it.
Sir, we have many of them on on this clubhouse, sir.
Hold on, not club.
I know, I'm just giving you an example. I'm going to give you an example.
Hey, let me help, Mr. Nnadi, let me help you close out that question. Okay, so for the purpose of this conversation and for the purpose of this discourse, I don't want to have to ban or gag any discussion with regards to that, but we've pretty much agreed that the extensive work that has been done by NINAS, which is to acknowledge the individual ethnic nations, especially in the Lower Niger Congress and across all the Middle Belton states, and to create a conversation, put it together, find a charter of relations that works for everybody, and then use that charter of relations to form ethnic blocks. So the Lower Niger Congress now forms on that charter of relations. Is the only identified or the most recognized ideology for classification of any of the nations within the regions. So therefore, for the purpose of this conversation, there will be no need to say as anybody. We're strictly talking about the NINAS movement. So there will be no other ethnic nations, agitations, identification of ethnic nations will be considered for this conversation. So I hope I've been able to clarify. So as far as what Eni is referring to, Mr. Nnadi, is talking about the work NINAS has done to put together an Igbo, I don't want to say an Igbo nation, but a charter of relations of the Igbo community in Igbo land to identify how they want to self-determine under the NINAS alliance to move forward. I hope that has a bit clarified that question. So Eni, please finish up your question and then Mr. Nnadi.
Yes, I will stand down.
Thank you very much, Eni. So let's move on to the next question. We have a line of... Okay, hello, sir. You can make your submission, sir.
Okay, I should make my...
Yeah.
Mr. Tony, I'd like to ask a question, sir. You're talking about...
Your name,
this,
sir? Your name, sir?
Simon.
Okay.
We're talking about this... how are you going to propose, how are you going to make this possible? Is it through legal system? Because we all know, everybody here knows that the Nigerian legal system is flawed. We all know that. And the executive, the executive is the presidential part of the Nigerian system. They don't obey the judiciary. We all know that. So how is it possible? Or are you going to use the legal system of the international community?
Wow,
because if we are talking about using Nigerian legal system, I don't think is it possible? Is it possible?
I'm texting number my wife boy. In my how long again or sometimes on or later. I can text here now.
Okay, you see, moderators, I consider it very disrespectful for you to keep on bringing on people, and then when they unmute their mics on stage, you don't mute them. So it's either you are not bringing up anybody, or you are bringing up people, and as soon as they unmute their mic, you mute them. Please, if you're coming up on stage, please mute your mic. Thank you very much. Please land your plane in 30 seconds. Thank you very much.
Okay. So as I'm saying,
okay, sir, let me help you with that question. So extensively, the submission is on how we are going to achieve the balkanization of Nigeria, or how we are going to achieve the sovereignty for the Nigerian states. Do I get that correctly? That's your question.
Yeah, in any of those ways, how are we to achieve it? Because
exactly,
for me, the legal system of Nigeria is flawed. It's not working.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that question. There will be, Mr. Nnadi, before you answer that question, let us take two more submissions. What is very clear is that a lot of people understand how the problem came to be, what has been done so far. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how we are going to eventually solve this problem. So thank you very much. We'd like to take more questions. Arakun.
All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. All the moderators are great. So, Mr. Tony, thank you very much for being around. 2015, I sent a messages to you, but I don't think you get it. No problem. I just want to ask a question. You made mention of Ozekome. He's one of the respected senior advocates where in Nigeria, and I've had influence with that number that constitution needs to be pulled down. And I just want to ask you, maybe when you're answering a question, can you, if it is possible, just tell us what is his own particular stand when you met him? Because I have heard him talking about that constitution, and until we bring that constitution down, we're moving nowhere. Can you just, if you don't want to hide anything, what is his own stand based on what you have said and what you have been done, talking to people like him? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. He is in that panel. He is in the panel that discussed at the Nigerian Bar Association conference in Port Harcourt today. They are still talking about, they agree, finally, they agree that the constitution is bad beyond redemption. The argument now is that any role they assign to the National Assembly takes us right back to where we are running away from, because that National Assembly is as constituted today by that caliphate that is holding us down. They hold the numbers there. Our argument is that there is no part of that process that should be the business of National Assembly, because they are proposing that a bill should be sent in which a referendum will now have to be created and engrafted into the Constitution so that people can now go to referendum. But the question we ask them, one, how do you take my sovereignty and submit to people who have hijacked it to decide how I can get away from the situation I'm complaining about? That's the first major question. Second major question, at what point will these things be done? These complaints have been on the table since 1999. When some of us first raised it, that this constitution cannot be the basis of any democracy, we were denigrated. Some said I was a madman because I was alone at the time. They say it's not possible. They just dismissed it. And these are professors of law and senior advocates. Upon all the explanations we made to them, elections will come, they will be the first to go with their friends to make sure that the elections are contested. When we were telling them that what we have to do is to get people to repudiate that constitution and refuse to go to any further election, insist. If we have to fight, we fight among ourselves to say we can't allow a few of us to take us to the slaughter. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time. So these things you are hearing now, I have gone eyeball to eyeball with every one of them, and they now agree that the constitution is bad. They go to TV to say, oh, constitution must go down. We have a plan on the table that has timelines for when that will happen. You cannot be saying that the constitution is bad and must go down in the daytime, and at night you are plotting how to go to another election in 2-3 years' time under that constitution. I consider it dishonest. I consider it standing with your pocket as against where the people need to go. Why are they not the ones telling everybody that we can't proceed to another election under this constitution? Why are they not the ones advertising that NINA's framework for how all of us can solve this problem now? Why are they taking us to National Assembly, which is not our sovereignty, does not, their mandate, the National Assembly's mandate does not include making constitution. It is for lawmaking. Our contention is that we have not made any constitution. They are committing treason against all of us by holding on to that constitution as basis of this union. The lawyers in the land are standing with them. You understand now that they know exactly what we are proposing. They are driving the opposite campaign of trying to get the National Assembly involved. Now they've moved away from amendment, because that was what was contained in their paper today, that people should work together to get amendments. Now they say they have to prepare a bill to get the National Assembly to include, is it not amendment to the Constitution? And it requires 4/5 majority to be able to do that in the part that has to be amended. How are they going to get these people to be, because you have to have the whole knot repenting. Whereas we can avoid all of that by insisting that it is political action that has to be taken. Back to the first question that says, I will ask the man that asked the first question. My question to you, so that you can go and rephrase your, since you stood your question down. My question to you would be, not the one that stood down. The second question. My question to you would be the one that says, is it by legal action? I will say to you in return, have you read that Nina's proclamation? If you have not, please, and in going forward after this initial period, from next week, Anybody who will ask question must first tell us he has read that proclamation. That is something that took many, many years, involving thousands and thousands of people all over the place, taking risk to bring to where is now finished product to be used. It's like the architectural drawing in the construction site we want to build. Anybody who will come to ask questions like this question of, is it by legal means? Are we going to rely on international legal? We are not relying on any Nigerian court. The only thing we needed to do in Nigerian court has been done. We went in 2007 to say we didn't make the constitution. The Attorney General of Nigeria said he had nothing to say. That was also what he filed in court. He said he had nothing to say because what we filed was exclusive to the constitution. We said, court, look at decree number 24, printed in error in this constitution, that tells the story of how the constitution came. Then look at the preamble to the constitution that claims that we, the people, have submitted our lands. Tell us, between we, the people who are complaining, and the soldiers who made the constitution, who made the document as contained in that decree, tell us who made the constitution, because if it's not we, then let us accept it is a fraud. Let us get into a transition. Our proposition, and anybody who does not agree with that must bring a better proposition or stand with the enemy. Our proposition is that we have to accept that we cannot build on this foundation of falsehood. And therefore, like South Africa did with apartheid constitution, we have to acknowledge that trouble, that difficulty, and go into transition. Our quarrel is not with the people in government house. Our quarrel is with the constitution. Therefore, those in government house, there's still 1 year and a half between now and when their tenure will finish in 23. We don't need more than 3-6 months to stop this journey to nowhere, get into transition, and solve this problem. Because as they proceed in brigandage, as they proceed in defiance of our sovereignty, in defiance of our sovereign will, it will come to where people who are facing the danger of death are going to resort to self-help. We saw the Minister of Defense telling people to go and get gun and defend themselves. We see the situation in Benue, where the governor has no other way to go than to find a way to defend his people, when the president is openly on the side of those killing his people. It can become, indiscriminate and widespread, that people who are feeling the danger of death will have to resort to self-help. We may lose control of the situation. That's why I'm speaking the way I'm speaking. It's not as if I don't speak. When I go into Congress in Capitol Hill, I don't go speaking to them like this. We discuss what we have to discuss. They come to their conclusions. The same thing with the State Department. The same thing with all of the people. You can't imagine who and who had been in this discussion. Sitting President Jonathan put his life on the line to solve this problem. Many of you will be shocked to hear this. He put his life on the line to solve this problem. But forces around ganged up to say, we can't go there. If we remember the first decision taken on the floor of the National Conference of 2014, the first decision taken on the floor of that conference was that they will not visit the foundations of this country. That was their decision, but they put it on the head of Jonathan back to say he was the one that asked them not to. Falsehood, deceit everywhere. And they're the ones now coming to invite us to come and elect them, their party or their new party, so that they can go and win power and then solve the problem. We are going to be calling their names in the days ahead. Let everybody get ready for serious trouble, except they embrace the truth so that we can liberate our people who are being encircled for extermination by an invading force intent upon conquest.
Thank Thank you very much.
Let's move on to the next question.
Thank you very much, sir. We're going to change the pattern of the questions going forward. So if you have any questions, please send it to the moderators. You'll be perceived, and then from there, we'll then be able to adjudicate your questions correctly to the guest speaker. So again, I'd like to rephrase. The question session format is going to change. If you have a question for our guest speaker today, Mr. Tony, please send a message to me with a snippet of your question so that it can then be taken in a proper queue. So for that purpose, whilst we're all sending in our questions, I'd like to take a quick question from your papa. Thank you very much. Your papa, please go ahead and ask your question. Olami, Mr. Olami Martin, are you there? Okay. In his absence, I'll take a question from Captain. Captain, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this beautiful opportunity. Thank you very much, Mr. Tony Nnadi. So I have two questions. The first one is, what is your stand with Mazen Nnamdi Kanu? The second question is, between civil disobedience and we going out there to defend ourselves, which do you think is the silver bullet? Thank you.
Thank you. Moderator, please, special consideration for this last question.
Sir. Yes, sir. Please, I apologize, but we would not like to take questions about Nnamdi Kanu today. Again, like I said, it's a deliberate attempt to keep the message coordinated and focused on the NINAS movement, the constitutional logjam, and the fundamentals of the work that has been done for more than 20 years by NINAS. So again, I want to apologize, but yes.
My comment on that, so that the whole house can hear it. My comment on that is that Nnamdi Kanu is directly involved because we sat down before he began to do what he was doing. And a plan was placed on the table, an 8-point strategy was placed on the table for how we can achieve what he said he wanted to achieve. And what we are doing today, in terms what NINAS came out with in December last 2020, was coming 100% from that 8-point strategy. We haven't changed one bit from it.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That's enough.
No, 70% of the problems we are trying to solve now, if we can continue to kick the can down the road, 70% of the problems we are trying to solve now, in terms of people who do not understand what should be done to get us to that freedom, emanated from the deliberate distortion, misrepresentation of what was written and placed on the table. People were told that Fulani hired Tony Nnadi to prevent them from getting Biafra. People were told that Movement for New Nigeria was only for the amendment of Constitution. People were told that, all kinds of things. And they believed it with all their heart because it began to present us as looking for something inferior to the freedom they wanted. Some of the people who believed those things were not even their own subscribers in terms of doing Biafra or doing Odua Republic. And so if we do not go back to the truth, because those 8 points of strategy still remain the road, anybody who does not embrace it 100% will have to go and do something somewhere. Let that person not come to tell me that unity is strength. It is the kind of unity that Nigeria has had since 1914 that they are proposing. Let us put everything aside and go back to A, B, C, D of what will work. And the things are simple. There must be a map for the territory you seek independence for, a definite map, because that's the first question they will ask you in the international arena. Over which territory are you seeking this independence?
Okay, sir, can I quickly come in here, please, yes, sir, because we understand the fact that, We know the hard work that's been done to bring
no, it's
you
not
on the platform.
This is the core. This is the core.
I understand. We've been following this up.
In fact, hold on. When I was invited to this session, I said that my presentation will revolve around those 8 points of strategy that frame the NINA's proposition. That was what I said I was coming to discuss. But when you began,
we understand that, sir. Like we said, we will be having more closed session with you.
It shouldn't be closed session. These things I'm telling you,
of course, definitely.
Broadcasts were happening
sir,
day and night for
please,
7 years.
I want you to understand
distorting the truth of what we said.
No. Can I come in, sir, please?
Yes.
We have to understand.
This audience you have today need to understand what we set out to do, because as I speak with you, Simon Ekpa is still broadcasting that we were doing something else before, and then we were coming to join them now in self-determination. Simon Ekpa is
Mr. Nnadi,
on that platform.
Mr. Nnadi, we're going to have a discussion. It's not going to be a small discussion. We just don't want to overwhelm this room with questions that are not related to what message you intend to send to people. So we will have the discussion, the difficult discussion. That is going to be on another day. So we
in
would
fact,
like.
In fact, it will be the first NINA's clubhouse meeting.
Absolutely, we'll do that.
These ones we are doing now is to summon more people to a bigger meeting in which we'll present our plan. That plan will begin with what exactly did we set out to do, and we have documents we're going to send up front.
Exactly.
So people to know
we look forward
exactly
to that.
what we set out to do and how it has been done to date, so that they can tell, they can see that what they were told before, which we decided not to respond to all these years, because if we attempted to respond to them, the system we will have blown our own cover. The system will have stopped us long time ago. But somebody took advantage of the fact that we were inside Nigeria, and we were not going to tell anybody we are going to take down the basis of Nigeria at that time. But now it's too late for anybody to do anything. Even if Buhari is in this meeting now, there's nothing I said that I will not say. You understand? So we have come to where everything will have to be put on the table. Therefore, there's no part of what was said before that is going to be put in one corner, because it will be inconvenient for people to know that the plan was placed on the table before 42 different Biafran organizations, including the Wazuri case, including Benjamin Onwuka, the Zionist movement, including the other ones in between, Bilie in the US and UK, Biafra, all those 42 different at the last count. And I'm talking about, there's the one they call Biafra government in exile, in Nekweche. We went round to every one of them, placed a plan on the table, challenged them to give us another plan if they have any. None of them has any alternative. None of them has a map of the territory they want independence for. Because if you go and bring them a map that includes other people's land and you've not gone to talk with them, you don't have no map. You must go talk with the owners of the land, and all of you will make a joint presentation to the rest of the world that is what you want. You don't have a map, you don't have consultations you have made. None of them realize that constitution is 75% of the whole bondage they are trying to escape from. They were making a mockery of the fact that they call me Mr. Constitution. They call me Mr. Map. Whereas the self-determination they profess begins with map and ends with constitution. All self-determination campaigns, they begin with the territory you want independence for and the constitution you're able to get into the place, whether it gives you 80 or 50 or 100% autonomy. It begins with one and ends with the other. They don't want to see or hear anything about map. They don't want to see or hear anything about constitution. The alliance that if we escape from Nigeria today, it will be because that constitution went down. If that constitution goes down, it will be because our alliance was able to take it down, because nobody could have done it alone. If the international community stand with us today, it will be because we went to them as an alliance, because they were not going to create 300 countries. These are all parts of that machinery that had to work together. That was also rejected in terms of what we were going to do to get at that outcome. Referendum was rejected as the mechanism for landing this. Referendum, I was told in the meeting where I was saying this matter should be driven to where there's a logjam that will go to referendum. We had already gone to the UN before then, and we already had the instrument from 2007. This meeting was happening in 2013. And so I was told in that meeting that if anybody talks about referendum, that person will be killed. I said, no. What is your reason? He said Nigeria will rig referendum. Did we say Nigeria is going to do referendum? We are to, in exercise of our sovereignty, insist on something that has to do with the constitution that will cause a constitutional logjam when we refuse to travel further with that constitution. And that the UN already created a framework that will deal with the situation because of that 2007 instrument, which I was directly involved in how it emerged. Soyinka being my emissary to Kofi Annan. Soyinka is still alive. He may be listening to this.
Can I ask a question with regards to the map, please?
Yes.
Okay. Can I go? So hi Tony, good to have you. Thank you so much for the information, for educating us even more and helping us understand the NINAS project and the movement as a whole. I've got three questions actually. One of which is to do with the map, and this is something that we've discussed a lot and people have had disagreements with, is actually with the map that the NINAS movement came up with or are using. Now, and this is where the question is why the Yoruba Nation have their own group. We're grouped into Yoruba Nation as one group. The Middle Belt were grouped as one. And when it came to Lower Niger, we know there's this argument about the South and Southeast wanting to be represented in that map differently. And there's been debate and arguments that the people, because I hear you saying that the grassroots were consulted before this map and they were shown this map and everything was agreed on. But somebody back channeled me yesterday when you were on stage saying the Ijaw people, for example, on the ground did not accept that map, and that's why they're not in agreement with the movement. Is that right? And if so, are we still going on with the map representing the Lower Niger Congress as a whole group? Or would there be a point where the South and Southeast will be allowed to identify themselves as per their ethnicity? That's one. Number two, I actually wrote down, again, this came up yesterday, but I didn't get the chance to speak. But I'm going to ask you that one. So a lot of the NINAS process, and this is someone asking me, saying we're relating or calling on international bodies. So the UN, I've heard you say several times, the UN. And the question is, how would these people actually come into the process, and what would they do to make all of this plan happen? And how would they facilitate anything at all? What's their influence in all of this? That is the UN. We know that the British people have their interests, so they're not speaking on anything. I'm not sure about the US and where they stand. It's a bit iffy, but again, Trump said it clearly in his government, where they said the problems in Africa is not their problem at this point. So I don't know how they would help facilitate or influence anything to happen. And the third question is, how are we? How
interject? Please, can you keep the question straight to the point? We do have a very long queue. So last question, but everybody else, we just need one question, please. Thank you, Google.
The last question is, how are we reaching out to the grassroots, so the people actually on ground? How will they get to hear about NINAS and participate? Because we need these people to come on board. What's the plan to include the people on the roadside and the street people? Thank you.
Thank you, Golu, for the question. Thank you, sir. This is the first time I'm speaking to you. Thank you for being here. I've been listening. I don't know if you want to take this question and then we will go to the queue again. Thank you, sir.
Please, I want to take it.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
They're in three parts. Yes, they're in three parts, and I'll take them in the order they were asked. I wish the person, let me even ask her, the person that raised that issue about the map, is he or she in this program? Because it will have been, I will have requested that person to restate so that the evidence of the contrary would be provided. Everybody present in this meeting can get on YouTube right now and click and search with the title Solemn Assembly of the Peoples of the Lower Niger that happened in Port Harcourt on the 27th of April in 2015. Review the video, Solemn Assembly of the Peoples of the Lower Niger. Review the video and then tell me who you know involved in self-determination campaign in the Niger Delta that was not in that. The UN got that video by the 1 week after the event in Port Harcourt, because we didn't go saying anything until we had gone around for those years and each of those territories. In fact, in the next meeting, in the NINAS clubhouse that will have many more people present, the head of there's a book launch to tell you how deep this matter is in those places. There's a book launch that will happen in Abuja tomorrow. It was to happen in Yenagoa. Some people who are suppressing the truth about the Niger Delta agitation went to court and got an injunction preventing the book launch because of 6 chapters that were dedicated to exposing the truth of how the whole campaign was put together. I can tell us in this meeting that the head of the entire commotion that you call Niger Delta agitation today is a principal officer that is after Isaac Boro in Ijoland. The next person that organized everybody, and Asari Dokubo called his name in one video where he was rebuking Edwin Clark and others at the time they went to make a 16-point demand in Abuja to say, did you ask the people that brought us into this campaign, into this agitation, what we were fighting for before you went to Abuja?
Sorry, sir, please go ahead.
Yes. Now, the name of that person is T.K. Ogoriba. I'm sure there are many of us in this meeting that know that it was T.K. Ogoriba and a few of his associates that rallied the rest of the people together to say it has come to where we have to push back what became Kayama Declaration, that became the basis of that pushback that now widened into the Niger Delta agitation that came from Niger Delta Volunteer Force to MEND, to Avengers, and all in between. And therefore, that Tike Ogoriba and the rest of those who actually levied that campaign, including the one all of you know, Asari Dokubo. As if you click Lower Niger Congress today, right now, and scroll down on Google, scroll right down to the oldest Lower Niger Congress. That's the first Lower Niger Congress document that went public. You will see that the date on it is 2009. You will see 22 signatories in the inaugural proclamation that was done in Warri. Asari was one of the 22 signatories. It took 1 week ceremony in Warri with Urobo, Anang Efik, everybody present, to say we have consulted across the length and breadth of the territories. The peoples of the territories have come to a preliminary understanding that we can pursue this matter together. In order to avoid all of what went wrong in the past, we have to get a map. This is a technical information now. Those who wish to argue can argue. Those who wish to research can research. The right to self-determination, as enshrined or enunciated by the UN, accrues to you only and only if and only if you are a distinct ethnic nationality, that's a distinct people in your ancestral space. I repeat, under the UN instrument, which was why the Lower Niger Congress went for the map of the Lower Niger the way we went for it, because everything Nigeria had called us would not fit into that requirement of the UN. That requirement is that you must be a distinct people in your ancestral space. You must be Scots in Scotland. You must be Catalan in Catalonia. You must be Ijo in Ijoland. You must be Yoruba on Yoruba land. If you come in any other capacity, if you come in any other configuration, you cannot, because Igbo is 43% of Lagos population, come and begin to claim right to self-determination in Lagos. The UN will not listen to you. You cannot come as South-South or Southeast. They have a directory. They will look, if you come for self-determination, Ogoni, as small as you think they are, Ogoni is entitled to that right, because Ogoni is in Ogoni land, saying they want to be by themselves in Ogoni land. But if they come as South-South, I tell you, no diplomat will enter any meeting with them. And that is why no diplomat had been in any meeting with any of these groups to date. And so it was in an attempt to qualify ourselves. Biafra is not one such. Is there any ethnic nationality that goes by the name Biafra? The answer is an absolute no. Because there are the Igbo people, the Ijo people, the Anang people, the Efik people, Ibibio people, Ishekiri, Urobo, all of them, everybody in their own identifiable ancestral space. That was why the Lower Niger Congress went for that map of 1885 that delineates everybody according to their ancestral space. Those who can think for Ijoland, those who have been in the fight, those who have carried arms in that fight, and who had to consult with other people at the highest levels. Not long ago, we went into the creeks to even discuss the same matter with some of those who had not been called into it before. At the highest levels, I mean, of Ijo decision-making processes. I will not call names because processes are still in ongoing. But tomorrow, 28 October, 2021, there's a book launch that has the story of the struggle in 6 chapters. Everything that you knew or you heard about the Niger Delta agitation as led by the Ijaw. That book launch and the people present, I am about 4 hours away from the venue of that book launch. My itinerary was to take me to Yenagoa. I'm now adjusting it. I'm in the field at this moment. But I will be part of that launch tomorrow, because those who can decide for Ijaw land, those who have fought and placed their lives at risk and everything they ever had at risk, they want to now begin to tell the rest of the world at the big stage that this is where they stand. All attempts to Junaid Mohammed, unfortunately, he's late now, to tell you the kind of mischief intended by the people who are throwing up those stories, who are not involved in the Ijaw struggle or the Niger Delta struggle. They are not involved, because those involved had been involved in all the meetings that led to the adoption of that map. That map was part of what was adopted in that solemn assembly in Port Harcourt as the geographical basis, because it takes care of the requirement at the UN. It takes care of all the mischief that went before Willings Commission, before independence. It takes care of everything that went wrong from the time of Biafra. It takes care of the Midwest that was not part of the Eastern region, but Igbo people there wanting to be part of how other people go. The international community is not going to be discussing 300 countries with you. And if you come as South-South, when you have, you just shut out yourself. Which of these people who are discussing in this manner, which of them had gone to sit Ogoja people down? In Ogoja area alone, there are almost 11 languages. Boki. We went to every single identifiable different nationality. We mapped out their land. We got them to discuss with their neighbors, and they came to the conclusion that if I will be recognized as the owner of my land, and I'm entering into an agreement with my neighbor, that will be the basis of our federating tomorrow if we all agree. It is merely a proposition until it goes to referendum, until it is ratified by plebiscite. There may be some that will want something different. They will campaign and by plebiscite stand alone if they want to stand alone. At this time, our concern is to pre-qualify ourselves for the right to self-determination. At this time, our concern is to be part of an integral part of that alliance that is already discussing with the international community. So that map has basis, both in terms of consultations with the people who are involved. If there's anybody who will come to any of these kind of meetings to tell us that he's involved in the campaign to liberate the Niger Delta, let that person come, because in the meeting of Ninas, I'll become, in fact, that TK Ogoriba, that is the head of the Ijaw campaign for liberation, is the president in waiting of the Lower Niger Congress to take over from 86-year-old Fred Agbegbe Ishekiri. He is the president designate of the Lower Niger Congress. Everybody that needs to be present were present in Port Harcourt at the time they adopted that map, because that is the first time their names are written on a map of how constitution will be made. Ijaw on Ijaw land, no 1 square inch of their land missing. Ogoni, no 1 square inch missing. So that map is the basis of the right to self-determination that we seek to exercise. South-South shuts you out. South-East shuts you out. Biafra shuts you out. None of them qualify. How can we explain this thing to people with education? And instead of looking at the books, they are thinking of sentiments. What they are rejecting is the Biafra of Igbo, the type that Nnadi That is the problem. That Biafra that will not consult the owners of other lands that are supposed to be that part of that territory. Even the name, indigenous people of Biafra, I tell you, diplomats are sympathizing with all of us for how we fell into this type of stupidity. In the territory, there are peoples. That is why that UN instrument is called United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Because in our territory, the Igbo people, one people, Ogoni, another, Ijo, another. So the UN looking at peoples of that territory. So the name indigenous people of Biafra already shuts you out of any meaningful meeting. I can tell you, report to all of you today, that there's not been any single diplomat meeting with anybody going in those names. Not one. If anybody can bring proof to the contrary, I'll be more than glad to engage that person. And let us see that proof that any diplomat had gone into any meeting with any group presenting themselves outside what the people, not UNPO. Some of you will say, oh, UNPO. UNPO is not an organ of the United Nations. UNPO is simply, it's an acronym for Unrepresented Peoples, Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization. Again, Unrepresented Nations, Peoples Organization. That is the meaning of UNPO. It's not an organ of the UN. So that you don't come and tell me that MASOB or Yoruba Nation registered in UNPO. I'm not reporting to you what somebody told me. I'm reporting to you what I directly participated in at the UN headquarters building in New York, dating back to 2012. Even this match that happened in the place, the letter that we addressed to the UN Security Council is being attended to, because we told them that the Mietiala sponsors of Fulani herdsmen had boasted that Amina Mohammed is their daughter in control of United Nations. I'm sure some of you read that letter. And so those are the UN who are worried about what Fulani herdsmen, the fourth most deadly terror organization on earth, is doing with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Hearing now that Mietiala was boasting that their daughter is in control of the UN, steps have been taken inside that place concerning the matter of the issues we are raising. And you remember that in 2019, in August of 2019, after our 7 months discussions with Washington, Washington whispered to New York, and the UN sent a rapporteur mission to Nigeria called Agnes Calamat, headed by Agnes Calamat, to come and investigate the extrajudicial killings happening. Government is killing, Fulani herdsmen is killing, Boko Haram is killing, every police is killing, army is killing, every blood all over the place. And the UN wanted to know what was this problem with Nigeria. And they dispatched a mission. We finished in Washington in July. By the middle of August, that mission was already here from the UN. And the report, the investigation included even the IPOB people that were shot in the period before then. It involved the Shiite and all kinds of other killings that had happened. And that report concluded that the extrajudicial killings happening in Nigeria are coming from the unworkable constitutional arrangements of Nigeria, which they describe as pressure cooker for injustice. They describe Nigeria's constitutional arrangement as pressure cooker for injustice, because they say it's that constitutional arrangement that is the reason for Niger Delta agitation, reason for Biafra agitation, reason for Yoruba agitation, and all of that. And people are being killed, reason for the killings in the Middle Belt. And so the US had taken its time, because we went to tell them that ISIS has come to our space from the Middle East, invited by our own government, that Buhari is at the center of what became Boko Haram, and that Buhari is life grand patron of Mieti Allah. Mieti Allah that is proudly taking responsibility for the actions of Fulani herdsmen, and that Buhari, our president, had gone into the treasury to take 100 billion naira to give to Mieti Allah to support their business. And so, if Buhari is patron of Mieti Allah, and Mieti Allah is sponsor of Fulani herdsmen, how am I to make a distinction between Fulani herdsmen, Mieti Allah, and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria? Therefore, US, you are at war with ISIS, and ISIS has formed a joint venture with these people here that became ISWAP, sweeping through West Africa towards the coast. You either come now so that they don't seize the sovereign space of Nigeria and the rest of West Africa, because you can see Chad is not going to resist. They already overrun all those places: Chad, Niger Republic, Mali. Each of these three countries, bigger than Nigeria, surrounding Nigeria in the immediate. Pouring, Libya has already come undone. Most of the weapons being moved around here coming from there. So these were the things that were placed before the decision makers of the US. And I'm not telling you what was done remotely. Eyeball to eyeball in the places of the decision making inside Capitol Hill, around Washington, the executive branch, the legislative branch. And on account of our engagements, the US began to take policy actions on Nigeria. You saw where they put Nigeria on the watch list, special watch list for this kind of ethno-religious killings. You saw where that categorization went up to CPC, country of particular concern, placing Nigeria side by side with Iran and the other state sponsors of terror because of what people in government in Nigeria are doing in that terror business. It took 7 months. I spoke in the Senate, the committee, of course, at the level of committee that was dealing with the matter. Spoke in the House. 5th of June, 2009. These are things we can investigate. The pictures and videos are there on our website concerning this matter. Then on the 16th of June, the 5th of June for the House segment, 11th of June 2019 for the Senate segment, 16th of July at the State Department, where the State Department was not asking, what do you ask the United States to do? Because that was how we challenged them. We said, there's something that will cost America blood if it is not addressed. The people you thought you had defeated in the Middle East have located to West Africa, and they have the sovereign, the support of the sovereign state of Nigeria as represented by the federal government of Nigeria. And it became, from that moment, a national security question for the US to answer. So those who are asking, what will America do? Who knows where their interest is? Apart from Corona that came in the midst of all that discussion, the number one national security headache of the United States was terror. And here we were telling them where the head of that terror had gone and what they could do. What was our proposition? We told them that Nigeria that is hosting this terror through its federal government belongs to a whole number of us. That 3/4 of that Nigeria has already banded together to take down the constitution that bring the Fulani that went to bring this ISIS. So that if we take down that constitution, we end the union that admit them into our spaces. A third party can then stand in between a third party that is at war, because there are laws and rules in the US. We examined all their laws before we went in from the angle that will solve our problem. We selected the International Religious Freedom Act of 1998. I'm sure some of you have seen the picture where I was standing with a veteran congressman Frank Wolf, Chris Smith. I'm sure you saw when Bishop Cooker went to testify before a certain committee. The chairman of that committee in Congress, that was also co-chairman of the Tom Lantos Commission, Human Rights Commission that ended the apartheid in South Africa, was present in every presentation I made in that 2019. And he's still the one presiding, because we built a bipartisan coalition, those in Republican, those in Democratic Party, because we knew elections might come. But the national security question of America does not respect red or blue. As long as ISIS is approaching, as long as Al-Qaeda is approaching, red and blue go to one side. That is what we have from there. At the UN, not only did they classify the Nigerian Constitution as pressure cooker for injustice, that report went on to say that Nigeria, under that Constitution, is now a threat to global peace and security. Because with that Constitution in place, Nigeria was very likely to unravel. And that if Nigeria unravels, 200 million people will be looking for refuge. The UN and all the countries of the world will not have had any such serious case of a refugee crisis. And that since the global terror networks were already converging in Nigeria, it was an emergency that needed to be dealt with. These are all the works that have been done. But when you are doing things like that, when you have a meeting with a diplomat, nobody should hear it until actions have been taken. At the time we were doing these things quietly, the people who are doing propaganda were doing Photoshop with materials we were keeping from the public. Frank Gaffney, some of you have seen the video in which where Frank Gaffney was responding to my main presentation on the 17th of January at the National Press Club in Washington. Frank Gaffney was the Assistant Secretary for Defense in Reagan administration. Frank Gaffney was the first nominee of Donald Trump for National Security Advisor position. It was the evangelicals in the US who had extracted a promise from Trump at the time he was running for election that had initiated and engineered the invitation for me to come to repeat before them what we were saying in Nigeria in December of 2018 about the arrival of ISIS in our space and the involvement of our government in it. So these matters go very deep. But these people who are doing Biafra of internet went and took the videos and pictures involving this level of people in government.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
To present to people in Albania that they were meeting with the government in White House and Congress and all.
The network is bad, sir. Thank you, sir.
No single official of the US.
Yeah, I think we lost your connection a bit there. Thank you very much.
Coming here, man.
Okay, I was going to take the next question, but go ahead.
Okay, I think
Mr. Tony, I want to quickly ask you this, and please try and manage the time with us, because I believe there are still a lot of people that want to ask you questions. And please, can you tell me if there is any arrangement for Ninas, your Ninas, to guarantee the safety of the citizen while you advance your work in the international world, in the United Nations and all these organizations that you've beautifully explained, why the Fulanis are occupying, invading our lands, showing up in our forests, maiming and killing people in Igongo, in the southeast and every part, nooks and cranny of the country. Is there any work of yours that your organization is setting up, at least to defend the citizen, so that by the time you bring in this, our so beloved country we are marching forward to, there will be people that will be alive to have that country? That is my first question. What is
hold on,
Mr. Tony, let me finish.
Hold on, you come back to second question. Just hold on.
Let me take that one first. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Please. We knew that Fulani were coming to kill everybody before we began to take the kind of steps that took us to the question of gun. It was not by accident that the first set of people we had to assemble into the plan were the ones who already had guns. It was not by accident that we had to go to the people who sell the guns to them, to that Fulani that are killing us. We went to them to say, look, the guns we are selling, look at what it's being used for. Look at the role of our commander-in-chief in that war involving people, his own people coming from outside Nigeria. And we had to place a plan that will enable them come to our aid. If not for what we were doing, I'm not boasting, if not for what was being done outside your views, these people will have swept over you a long time ago. Why? Can we remember when Buhari came back from US to lament that Trump had asked him in their private meeting, why are you killing Christians in your country? How did Trump get to know? But again, how will he not know if the man he nominated to be National Security Advisor before he ended up with a Bolton is the one, is the points man working with us in this? Is it on the internet he will read what was going on if he was not briefed by people who had been in eyeball-to-eyeball meetings with us through a period of 7 months? And even before, the one of 7 months was when it came public. So the question of how to defend, we have a plan. This plan could have provided that if that constitution is sufficiently compromised. As I speak with you, governors who are present in their head and in their mind, who are face to face with the guns of the enemy, already see that all their efforts to bring gun into the fray had been frustrated by that constitution. Therefore, they began to understand the urgency of moving quickly to where that constitution is completely out of the way. And those who are asking us questions, but who are not reading, they think that we're just another small group writing and posting on the internet. You saw the December 16th force majeure. You saw the March 17th assessment after 90 days, where we challenged the governors to say the constitution that prevented you from taking up arms or arming your people is now out of the way. You either come and join your people or you stay with the enemy. That was what compelled the governors to go to Asaba to say they are going to ban open grazing, because we gave them 30 days to be with their people or stay with the enemy. But we came back to challenge them again to say, if you ban open grazing, by what arms, by what guns are you going to enforce it? Because the people coming to kill your people are carrying guns. As I speak with you, they are working frantically to get to that point where there will be no impediment. So it's not the matter of what to do with security, is not matter for open meetings like this. I've given you an indication that we knew that killings were happening at the time most people were still sleeping. We began to go to the source of help, to the guns that were already available, to arrange them into an alliance, so that if the Fulani is mad enough to start a fight with all of us, they will know that all the guns on the other side will be pointing at them. If you go and isolate yourself into one small corner between Aba and Omar here, they will criminalize you, surround you 360 degrees, and bring you down, and the heavens will not fall. That's what the situation is. Okay. And so, if we have a framework that can deliver the Yoruba that are being tormented in Yoruba land, deliver the Ijo that are being tormented in Ijo land, deliver the Middle Belt that has been tormented in their homeland, and people who are in that trouble are not looking at that strategy that has already gone to, why do you think the US canceled the order for attack helicopters? Did it happen by accident? There is somebody present in this meeting who was present the day we were telling the people who were going to deliver the Tucano jets. The very officials who were on that task of whether and when to deliver the Tucano jets. A demand was made that restrictions should be put on the use of those jets. That is what came out as policy last week. There is somebody in this meeting, present in that meeting, where that demand was made. And that person had the answer of the State Department official to that suggestion that there should be restriction placed. And therefore the US finally, after processing that suggestion, says that the Tucano jets were sold to Nigeria for use in the fight against terror. Therefore, it must limit its operation to the war zone of the Northeast and possibly Northwest, meaning that it will not be found in the skies of the Middle Belt and Southern Nigeria.
Okay.
Are we
Thank
to now
you
come to
very
the
much,
open,
sir.
to begin to tell? Meanwhile, the people who think that they are the ones who are doing to go and beat up Fulani, and then look at what has happened to Eastern Nigeria today. That our people are being killed in these numbers because of the recklessness of a few that are pretending to be doing what they do not know anything about. In the days ahead, when that pretense will be challenged, I'm sorry for the financiers, I'm sorry for the supporters of it, wherever they may be on the face of the earth, because they're contributing money to the slaughtering of our people, in the pretense that they're restoring a Biafra that they have no map to. I've told them, we've sent messages to them, we are able to get to them in every part of the world they are. Because what they're doing, we are not looking at it as terror, because Abuja called it terror. We are looking at the very thing they're doing in that space against our own people, killing our people deliberately, destroying their livelihoods, and compounding a problem that was already being solved. Just providing justification for Nigeria to kill our people without reservations.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, please.
All right. So we're going to take the next question. Thank you very much. Hisba, we'll take you after this question. So
No. Please, I have to ask my question. It's very important, and
okay, go ahead.
I promise to be as diplomatic as I can.
It's fine.
Sir, I want to let you know that before we pushed to invite you, we've been your fan. We followed you up for a long time now. And we've also done a lot of work by trying to, gather a lot of intellectuals amongst us, people that are highly read, well-read, well-traveled, historians too, because we've tried as youth to go into deeper sense of what exactly is happening. Then we've also come to realize that in as much as the United Nations, the Europeans, the world people that we still cry to, in as much as they are doing something, we also know the politics involved. As much as how rosy we try to make it look like, we also understand the politics they play, especially when it has to do with Africa. So, sir, with this, we are able to, we also come to the reality that they don't care about us as much as we think. And the people we are dealing with in Nigeria are fanatics that are wired with ideology. So why we are waiting for Americans to come to our aid?
Don't frame a question that will ruin the
Hold on, sir. Allow me to land.
What have we been doing for 22 years? Who is waiting for anybody? We went to show them a national security mission that compels them to come for their own national security interest. What can be better than that? I had Ojukwu that was at war, that suffered from their mischief on the drawing board. I had Achebe on that drawing board. What else are we to do to tell everybody that we have thought about these matters? We took the economic interest on one side, showed them what will happen, which was not done in 1967. We took their national security interest, which they cannot postpone, because they are already at war with that enemy that is now coming to reinforce itself in our space. Are you suggesting that we do not know that they play pranks or play politics? Let's go to another question, please.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Commissioner, hold on, please. Thank you so much, sir. We do appreciate you for coming, and thank you so much for taking our questions and honoring our invitation. We do appreciate all the work that you have done for 20 years. Thank you so much. So the next question, Prishiva, who's the next person?
All right.
To take the question.
Let me read the next question. Okay, so just a minute, sir. I just got the questions in the back channel, so I'm just gonna read the next question. So a question says, how do you intend to protect people if this whole thing turns into a protest, so that what happened in Lekki Phase 1 won't repeat itself again, because as we know, the government is ready to kill people that come into their path. So that's one question. The next question is...
Let's just take it because it's a one-sentence answer.
Okay.
Let those who are asking these questions leave everything they were thinking and go and read what we placed on the table as step-by-step how to solve this problem, because it has the answers there. We can have these meetings 50 times for the balance of this year. If people refuse to look at what our propositions are, they'll be asking questions you can't answer for things that took years to put together, which we have summarized in a manner that can serve them. If anybody watched on DSTV, because they played it for 1 week, my segment of the Celebration Symposium, I'm sure there are people in this program who saw when we were talking to the organizers of NSAS. Sheung was in the place and some of his friends who were involved in NSAS, and they had asked a similar question. And we told them that before it becomes something of rowdiness, the first thing is to arm yourself with the knowledge of what you want to do. The Constitution is the issue we have raised. If what we are saying is that we did not make this Constitution, it is the government that will have to go and find its own answers. Nobody is going to be able to frame any criminality. For we are the ones accusing them of committing treason against us now for holding on to that Constitution as basis of union, as long as we keep it that way. And if we challenge the political parties for wanting to renew the life of that Constitution, nobody can, if our people will do what we ask them to do and not what they plan to do, which was not going to work anyway, they will get to where they need to get to. But if they choose to do it their own way, somebody might open fire on them. Next question, please.
Thank you very much, sir. So the next question is, how can we get access to the British, let me read it again. Where can we get access to the documents you got from the British archives? Are there any documentation that we can look at, or anywhere we can go and get access to those documents?
They are both on the NINAS and the Lower Niger Congress website.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for that.
NINAS website being www.ninasvoice.org. Lower Niger Congress website being www lowernigercongress.org.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're gonna take some more questions on stage. So flash your mic. If you haven't sent your questions in the back channel, flash your mic. All right, so I'm gonna take Lisa B, Ogbonna, and Bola. Actually, let's start from Bola, sorry, from the top. Bola, you go first. Bola and then Lisa B. Bola, go ahead. Please keep it to 1 minute, please. 1 minute, and go straight to the question. Thank you.
Well, it's not a question I expect Mr. Tony to answer this night, but I've exchanged messages with you earlier on WhatsApp. I sent one this morning. If you could read it and then get back to me. But I don't want to divulge too much on air right now. Okay, thank you.
I don't even know who is speaking, so I wouldn't know. I send thousands of messages every day.
Yes, you may not know, but it had to do with the 1884. Let me just leave it at that.
Okay, but
not to say too much.
The question is, if you have a question, if you feel comfortable sending it to one of the mods so we can send it to him, or if you want to send it directly to him, then you might see that he might have a lot of back channel messages. So I'm not sure, but Mr. Tony, he said that he sent it.
I will expect something that will indicate to me where to search and.
It's on your WhatsApp. It's on your WhatsApp.
All right, I will look around. Which country number? Which country is it from? Nigeria, US or UK?
UK.
Okay, I will look out for. So I will limit my search to recent UK messages I've not opened, so I can find it. But let me also tell you something going on. The British, in their most dubious worst, stepped in right the week after this proclamation was made in December. They saw that we had gathered, we had organized the people they disorganized. They went first to the north to confer with them. Then they went to the Niger Delta and began to invite Ijo separate, Ogoni separate, into hotel rooms in Port Harcourt to say to them, look, leave these Igbo people. We have told our friends, your father, Dapabiri, had an understanding with us. We know there have been difficulties and so on. Leave these Igbo people so that we can go rectify what went wrong. This is British High Commissioner herself, that Catriona Liang. And then the people she was talking to, she didn't know how much they already knew of the pranks they were playing. The people she was talking to now asked her, say, look at our environment. Look at what our alliance with you against the Igbo has brought upon us. Our land is devastated. Our people are being killed and insulted on a daily basis. They have even taken more from us now than we had before. We have tried it for all these years. It hasn't worked. Leave us with our mistake of going with our neighbors. That was the time they came. I'm sure you heard when it went public that the Ijo told the British that they were fed up with the Union of Nigeria. That was also the period the Ijo leadership went to tell Buhari that everything considered, they are not going to endure this union any further. That is on the one part. The reason I went to that is to tell you that somebody who talked about the British and how we get them. Britain is central to the problem. Even ahead of the Fulani. They are the sponsors of this Fulani brigandage. They are the chief beneficiaries of it. Nigeria remains a business enterprise in which they hold the head of the knife and the Fulani is their local agent. Therefore, everything we are doing, they have a desk in London trying to counter it. They are pumping a lot of money. They are doing physical visitations. But unfortunately for them, there are two things that have changed. Everything they did since 1884, 1885, Berlin Conference, Ninth Amalgamation, everything war. This constitution, nobody is going to send us on any wild goose chase. The last question, the person that said I should go and read what he sent. Nobody is going to send us on any wild goose chase of going to look for documents of what happened 120 years ago, when we have a document of now that has our signature as the only authorization and that has everything we want changed inside the document, so that if we pull back that signature, the entire thing that took them this length of time to build together will crash. They will be entirely at our mercy if we focus our action on taking down that constitution that has all their eggs. The eggs they had gathered since 1884 are in that one basket. We will not leave that task that's almost finished to go and start searching the forest of 1,000 demons for things that happened in the places we cannot reach in the past and which you cannot enforce no matter what you do. That is my preliminary observation on what might be in the document in question. The 1999 Constitution is the culmination and cumulation of everything that was done to lock us down as slaves here, while our assets are taken away against our will and our lives compromised, sovereignty taken. We'll focus on that one that will solve all our problems, taking care of even the past, because our sovereignty will be back in our hands.
Thank you very much.
Next question, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, you're next. Please keep it 1 minute, 1 minute only, please.
Can you please add me?
Go straight to the question.
Okay. I thank you, Tony, and every other person who continues to seek to see that we negotiate our fates with the Nigerian question. My question goes thus, bearing in mind the Anambra upcoming election, and I know as though I've not really read what's on your site, I must say the truth, and I will try and do that, but I know you guys are seeking for creating a log jam to see that that election doesn't hold. Then there's also a call for election boycott by some other parties. So I want you to help us clarify the difference between these two, and let's hear your solution. That's just my question.
We put it in writing, even in that proclamation, which is why in the coming days, anybody who will take our time to ask questions must first satisfy us he has read that proclamation. We said it very clearly that our concern is not with any other election than the national election requiring the whole country to hold. Because if we leave that one, because it gives us time, the next national election is 2023. We are not talking about boycott on the day of vote. We are talking about getting the political parties to stop the journey. If we have to fight with them, we are going to fight with them to say, look, no matter which of you wins, this constitution you subscribe to is what we have repudiated and rejected. It's the source of our misery. If at the time we are rejecting it, you are trying to give life back to it by way of election, we're going to fight now, not tomorrow. You must close shop. Let somebody come to separate that fight so that the whole world will hear that we who are dying, who are being killed under that constitution, have rejected the journey to election that will happen in 2023. And therefore, in the pushing and pulling, because if the populace realizes that this is life or death, I tell you, they are going to be able to stop the political parties from coming to do any form of business until the constitution by which the winner will govern is settled. That is totally different from saying you want to go and disrupt one small, even if you shut down the 5 southeastern states. Nigeria, under the current constitution, Nigeria requires only 24 states to hold a valid presidential election. It will continue to present itself as a democracy before the globe, before the world community. Whatever you did in your small corner will be of no consequence the requirement to declare the result of a presidential election is that the candidate will score the highest number of votes and will have at least one quarter of the votes in at least 2/3 of the states, meaning 24 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Anything you are doing that does not disrupt completely, as in no election possible, in at the least 13 states, not that you are causing confusion and they are able to gather even in prison. You had the minister that said that if in Anambra is disturbed, that they could use prisoners, they could use the prison compound because prisoners have a right to vote, that they could go to prison compounds and get the people there to vote and declare result. A minister said that, Aregbesola. And therefore, the difference is that, and it goes back to this same thing where everybody thinks we should avoid. We were planning to distress the 2019 election from after 2015. Somewhere in between, these people who were spying on our projects and on our plans and taking credit for the things we are doing, they heard that we wanted to disrupt it. So they wanted to jump ahead of us. At the time we said it is not boycott we're talking about, and it is not any off-season election, the state or one Senate seat or House seat. No, it is the general election coming next that we're targeting. In order to prove that they're the ones who started election shutdown, they jumped into the Anambra, that was coming for 2017. In that period, we were building up something that will take 3 years to mature into that logjam in 2018. They jumped ahead of us to try to take credit. And that was what brought Operation Python dance upon everybody. They attempt. They are at it again. So look at what Nina set out to do. Look at the kind of build-up we're supposed to have. Having told everybody that we should just ignore the one that can cause setback to everything else. Let us face what we are doing. If until the winner of that election is sworn in March, everything they are doing can be overtaken by what we are doing. We don't need to go and expose anybody to the kind of thing. You can see that they've sent battalions to the place. They are going to kill people unnecessarily for something that will not solve the problem we're talking about, because we have not connected the message with the masses. We need to connect the message with the masses, focus everything on the political parties that are taking us to that election, so that our contention is not with the soldiers or with the INEC or anybody. Our contention is strictly against the political parties. Let us see how they will function in our space. If we tell them we can't go, they can't go, because they're going in our names.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that brings us to the next question. Before we go to that next question, I want to thank everybody on this call today, and also thank you very much, sir, for honoring this invitation to come to this club. It's been a great conversation already. If you are not following the club, please follow the club, the Rubicon. Today we're talking about the fraudulent Nigerian Constitution and the 2023 election with Dr. Tony Nnadi. So
no titles, I insist.
Okay, Mr. Tony. No problem, sir. No problem. Okay, so that brings us to the next question, which is really around how. So we talk about the electoral process. So how will this movement stop the electoral process, and how are you looking, or the movement looking, to reach the populace and the population of Nigeria, or also to the grassroots, and change mindsets to be able to sort of go with this idea or this vehicle of the NINES movement? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's the whole reason for making this sacrifice. I've been speaking continuously. I've been in 3 cities today. 3. By the time I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll be addressing a meeting involving people from about 11 states of the Middle Belt at the topmost levels. At some point in the morning hours, I'll be heading out of that location to another location to address people who had been stopped by injunction from functioning in their own space, but who had to carry on with the matter. Injunction was obtained to stop them from doing the business in Yenagua, and everybody has relocated. And so the reason we are doing this is to put this information in the hands of people with sufficient education, people with sufficient skills, people with sufficient commitment to seeking change, not those who are pretending, not those who are looking for how to make quick gains, like we have seen multitudes do. If the people present in this house and the ones of yesterday and the ones of tomorrow and the ones of next week and the ones that will come to Nina's, there is no reason why, if we put our minds to it, if we do not start by arguing without examining the proposition, if we examine what we have on the table as the plan, because it has even drawings. I'm sure some of you have seen Domino 1 and 2. Anybody who has those documents can take this business to finish. Understanding very clearly that the Constitution is the thing that are responsible for keeping that Constitution alive. And therefore, since only political parties contest elections, nobody else, that the rest of us can tell them, no, you can't go this next one until we sort out this Constitution. It is by, if we have 1 million people, even 500,000 that are serious, to take this message, use all the skills and what the internet can offer us, and spread that message. Get more people to know that this can mean life, this can mean death. And then they begin to speak up before they go to riot, before they go to street action, because they want to start by going out there to behead policemen. That is what means action to them. But we're telling them, no, before it comes to that, there's something that can be done that is much more important. Because for every one rifle you bring, they have 1,000 rifles to meet you in your community, wherever you turn up. Policemen are already there, DSS already there, wherever you turn up. And if they do a reinforcement, you see what has happened in Anambra for one election. DIG this, DIG that, 3 AIGs, 14 police commissioners. You can't imagine the number of mobile police contingents that have been drawn from many states. They started with 34,000 policemen, riot policemen. Now bringing this level of supervision with soldiers that are already deployed, not counted. And so what we need to do is to find that critical mass of people who are prepared to examine anybody who has not looked at what we have in black and white as the proposition, because it's a detailed plan, like architectural drawing for a building you have to join in constructing. If you refuse to look at that drawing, everything you are doing on that site might be distraction to those doing the construction. You may bring water and pour into the silo where dry cement is kept, thinking you are bringing water for the construction. The people doing the construction will feel like killing you if you bring water in tanker and put the hose in the silo containing the dry cement because you refuse to look at the work plan. I'm informing us that the task of taking this message to the grassroots is what has come upon our shoulders as the fight of our generation. If we do it, we will be averting the more serious fight. Those who have to use weapons in this fight already went ahead of all of you a long time ago. The only thing they have the discipline to listen is the ones that refuse to listen, that are going to crash their heads against stone walls. Their heads will be broken, they'll be buried. They may think they are doing great job of liberating everybody. But they've been the biggest impediment because they choose to work with ignorance when there's knowledge. They choose to walk in darkness when there's light, to light our lamp, our feet. The rest of us can do differently. I challenge us. Let us put aside all of what we were thinking before and read. There are videos. Let us review them because brokers that answer these questions, there are at least 30 videos. And there are some people in this meeting today that have no less than 20. Those videos clearly, because they were made to explain these things. If we find 1 million people that can take these two items, that force majeure proclamation and the videos directing our people on what to do, we will be done with this task in 6 months, and nobody will be shot.
Thank you very much, sir. I think
can I quickly ask a question?
I'm
the next on the list.
No, guys, please. I do understand that people want to ask questions. We did ask people to send it in the back channel. Mr. Tony would need to go shortly, so we can't have him much longer than 12 o'clock. So, 12 o'clock in the UK time. So, sir, if you don't mind, I have a few more questions for you. One is, let me just get the question. Sorry, just give me a minute. Okay, so this question says, does the investment and selling off and ditching of oil assets by OICs in Nigeria influence either way our struggle to exit the Nigerian entity? Did you get the question, sir?
Yes. No, I did. There's a part of it I didn't get.
Okay, so
the divestment.
There's the people who are selling off. So the selling off and ditching of oil assets by OICs in Nigeria influence either way our struggle to exit the Nigerian entity.
Everything will work together for our good. Some of them have been discovered for what they were doing. They actually have desks to brew the crisis that consume human lives routinely. In Warri, for instance, there is an oil block that has in one part Ishekiri, in another part Ijo, in another part Ogoni, land that is together called oil block. The owner of that oil block is in faraway Maiduguri, of course, with the foreigners that come to take the assets. The one they have to pay the local royalties that should have been for these local owners is on the other side. Now, there's a constant attrition such that every day Ishekiri is looking for who to behead, Ijo is invading, Urobo is crying and burning down. That is the way to maintain the stranglehold of the owner of the block. Never to allow them see eyeball to eyeball to discuss their collective misery coming from the operation of the oil company in the area. But a day came when somebody who had turned down ministerial offer in Nigeria went home to become council chairman in that very location. He chose to go there and he summoned all the sides to say, look, you guys, you must be fools not to realize that this fight that had been intractable is being engineered from so. He gave them examples of the kind of things the people were doing. You create a local government area and you cite the headquarters in the place where the people who are complaining of marginalization, and you create a local government area which in their name, and you put the headquarters in the land of the people who were marginalizing them. The same thing that happened in Delta State. It was the Urobo, the Shekiri, and the others further down the Warri area that were agitating to be separated from Benin people. Then you create that Delta State, and you put the headquarters in Asaba. From that time to this date, the people, the Delta people, the ones who wanted to be separated from Benin, they have not seen Delta State as their project to this date. So Mr. People who are abandoning,
don't interject. Don't.
Give me a minute. I need a minute. I mean, there's a lot of back ends. Hold on.
I'm sorry, Wonka. Please wait. Please go ahead, sir.
Those companies that are, divesting, so-called, some of them are psychological warfare. You quarreling idiots. Your oil is not important to us, we're living. But they have moved into the offshore because the one you do on ground, I'm sure you don't hear about mobile every day. Community beating up mobile like Shell, bombing and blowing, because 100% of mobile's operations, 600,000 barrels every day, is offshore. The communities that fall along the Ibeno communities that because they have to build their base, their land base by the waterfront in the place they call a QIT terminal. And the community, the only business they have to do with community is in that place where they have that QIT, small communities. So they actually rebuilt Eket. That's mobile, took Eket, did the roads, did the telephones, all kinds of things that people didn't have in that period. Mobile did it in such a way that they didn't need to build the kind of stack quarters in which Shell is cocooned in Port Harcourt or Warri. They took the town so that their staff, apart from the expatriates who had to be quartered in some level of safety, the rest of their staff actually live with the communities in Eket because they provided the basic facilities, schools, hospitals, and all kinds of things that will make you, have a sense of mobile is here. Therefore, we have this. And so, when the companies that were operating on ground, mobile did not operate onshore in terms of the spoiling Ogoni land and the other lands in between. Mobile was always offshore. Shell, when they realized that 95% of their problems were coming from their land operations, began to give up some of those investments and moved deeper and deeper into the sea because technology was improving, and they decided to invest more into, there's a company called Snepco that they formed to move away from the land, Ugoni land, and other places where trouble was every hour more trouble. So those divestments are mostly to move away from those trouble spots to safer areas that are mostly offshore. And they can do it quietly, you will not know, but they are making some noise of it for us to have the sense of a sinking asset. It's a psychological fight. Yes, the world is moving away from oil, but every step of the way, you can imagine what that revenue means for the countries that have not organized themselves sufficiently. But these people want to, they think these people should be told that their asset is not worth anything anymore, so that they can. That's part of the containment strategy. If the people from those areas will listen to what they are being told about what needs to be done to even save what is left and use it to clean up and get started on the right path, away from what Nigeria will desire for them, they are still, pretty much that could be achieved if only they will listen. Next question.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we'll take Lisa B because I called him.
We need to address something. So please, can I have the floor for a minute? The last question, previous to the last question was not addressed well, and there was a lot of questions on the back end. And this is the situation. How is a political process going to be stopped? What exactly is the blueprint? Is it that we're going to stop political rallies from holding, or stop them from meeting, or stop them from putting their placards, or stop the TV stations from airing them? This has to be clear cut. We need to understand that so that we can know how to key into it. And it wasn't really addressed fine. And somebody else asked the question from the back there as well. Should we just fold our arms and watch people continue killing us before everything is fixed? So should someone not come out, even if it's the least they can do, to do what they need to do to defend themselves? Because I mean, human lives is not flies, and we can't just keep dying until something happens in 3 years or 4 years' time. And the next day, someone is going to die next week. A city is going to be raised next month. A whole community is going to be raised next year. So are we just going to fold our hands and not do anything until something is done by UN? These are things that needs to be addressed.
These are the kind of questions that infuriate me. And when those questions are asked, I answer them in the manner that will show that they shouldn't have been asked in the first place. We knew that these killings are taking place. We are taking steps far beyond what we can share with you. I'm in the field where it's happening. As where I am now are the places where people live in apprehension for what next will happen. Southern Kaduna, Plateau, Benue. We are dealing directly with the people who are in that war front. There is something called covert and overt. We are telling our people to openly identify with the what I would call the back end that controls the front end, so that the task of the front end, the ones on the front line, will be lighter. Did anybody suggest that we should fold our arms? If a journey started by 4 a.m. and somebody woke up by 4 p.m. thinking that the journey is just about to start, and is not listening to what the people who saw the danger were doing and are still doing in distant places across continents. Have you examined what we proposed in writing? If you did, you won't be asking this question. And if you don't, and you frame your question in a manner that suggests you are saying everybody should fold their arms, there are people who are already engaging this situation with weapons. We are offering them protection in going to tell. You saw in April, I'm sure some of us saw the Paul Ade Farasi video where I was on the podium with him. Even the one he said before I went to see him. In April of 2021, in a space of 48 hours, between 28th, 29th, and 30th of April, the countries that actually the countries that sell these weapons to the people that are pointing the guns at us took a common position behind our proposition. That is the most restraining influence that the US, EU, and UK will tell Nigeria that you can't use gun in this debate, in this dispute that have been raised. The whole world is discussing the matter. Orders, monies that have been paid for military equipment, orders are being cancelled. People are being told you can't do this because if you do, because we have framed it as national security question for them. We are dealing with all of this and people sit in one corner pushing out propaganda that we are asking people to fold their arms. Going forward, anybody who has not found the time to read and examine what we have placed on the table, because in those things we listed exactly what people are to do. The political parties, the starting point is how many of us have told the political parties that they can't go to another election. If we're not prepared to say that, and you're asking me the mechanism, we have drawing something that can bring it as graphic. This is where we are, this is what we need to do, this is where to land. If people are not looking at that, you have a construction site, you have architectural drawing, you don't want to look at it. And you are asking the people who are casting the concrete that will be foundation, why are you digging? Are we not supposed to be building up? You are digging down because you have not looked at the drawing. Let us please, for the sake of the millions of lives that are at stake, the ones who have gone to bring, the ones who have gone to say, recover gun from the soldier, kill everybody you see around you. If you dress back and see the battle, the size of that battlefield, and the calamity it has now become for the people who are caught in the mess they started there, playing pranks, human life.
Thank you, sir. I think the last question was about the political campaigns. What's your thoughts on that?
If we don't say it loud and clear that political parties are leading us to death, if we don't say it on a scale that can become what we are saying, we are content to just type and allow them to seize the whole space.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry to ask you. Excuse me. Sorry for interjecting. Wait, please.
Okay, so Mr. Nnadi, I was going to ask you. Now we see everything that is happening, but we know Nigeria's relationship with freedom fighters. We know the story of Bola Ige. We know the story of Dele Giwa. We know the story of late Malafia. Sir, how are you protecting yourself? How? We do hope you are protecting yourself.
That's not the business for an open meeting like this.
Yes, yeah.
Hope you are taking precautions, sir.
Can I ask this a reasonable question for God's sake?
Thank you so much, everybody.
What kind of question is that?
Thank you. Please, can you mute?
Queen, hold on, please. Queen, sorry, it's
round up the session.
Queen, can I quickly ask a question, please?
Mistake. We did say we're going to finish at 12. So, okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, someone sent me a question. I was just waiting for you guys to round up. Mr. Tony, I'm so sorry to take your time. I apologize, please. Someone asked a question. He said, please tell Mr. Tony that I would like to have a copy of the legal argument he prepared and presented to Prof. Wabweze in 2007. I am a lawyer, and I will appreciate if you can do that. Thank you.
No problem with that. We'll find a way to. I'll search my records. I'll find it somewhere. I will find a way.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Tony Nnadi for giving us your time today. I know that it's been a long session and it's not always easy to be able to answer all these questions in this short time. I want to say a big thank you to you, and we hope that we'll be able to engage you again. To everybody on stage, I'm really sorry if we haven't gotten to your question, but tomorrow, Mr. Tony Nnadi is actually on the Yoruba Nation House. So please make sure that you make it a date. All the questions that you haven't been able to ask today, please have it ready. Those of you who have sent the questions to me and we haven't taken it, I will pass it on to Otumba and the moderators in the Yoruba Nation House. So hopefully we'll be able to compile some of these questions beforehand. Thank you very much, Mr. Tony, and we will be ending the room soon. And thank you, everybody, for attending this session today. God bless you. Thank you, sir.
I must run now. Thank you, everybody. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. We'll speak to you again tomorrow. Please join the Yoruba Nation Club tomorrow to be part of the nation.